The National News Desk, local. Covered, nationally connected. Ceasefire violated. As we come on the air overnight, Israel reporting a missile attack from Iran after a ceasefire deal went into effect. Homeland Security.
Sleeper cells carrying out acts of terrorism here in the United States. The administration.
The president's actions after some Congress members tried to limit his powers. And breaking this morning, Israel faced new missile strikes late last night. And thanks for joining us. I'm Jan Jeffcoat. It's Tuesday, June 24th. These latest attacks do come after President Trump announced Israel and Iran had agreed to a ceasefire. Trump writing on Truth Social that this ceasefire deal will mark an official end to the 12-day war and will be saluted by the world. Mark Boyle monitoring all from the live desk right now. Mark, is this ceasefire holding at this point?
Well, as of right now, Israel says no. It appears they're under attack by Iran right now. We're monitoring for reaction from the White House and Israel this morning, Jan, as Israel's defense minister accuses Iran of violating that ceasefire agreement with deadly strikes just hours after the deal was announced. Iran, of course, denies those claims. Defense Minister Katz just releasing a statement that says right here on your screen, quote, "We will respond forcefully to Iran's violation of the ceasefire with intense strikes against regime targets in the heart of Tehran." At the same time, U.S. military bases and embassies on high alert this morning as Iran eyes more potential retaliatory targets in range after launching attacks on the U.S. base in Qatar. New video into the live desk on social media. This is what we're seeing, a ton of new images, thousands of responses. This is from the president talking about the ceasefire now in effect already, claiming to be those Iranian missiles, though, getting blasted by U.S. defenses. No Americans or Qataris were hurt in one of those attacks. President Trump called that strike a very weak response. Now, the latest reaction online from the president saying in Truth Social, as we mentioned, the ceasefire in effect, please don't violate it. He says, thank you very much. That ceasefire went into effect around midnight Eastern. It'll be in effect for at least 12 hours before the war will be officially over around 12 o'clock midnight tonight. Vice President J.D. Vance talking on Fox News about what's going on.
The president, without, knock on wood, having a single American casualty, obliterated the Iranian nuclear program. We are now in a place where we weren't a week ago. A week ago, Iran was very close to having a nuclear weapon. Now, Iran is incapable of building a nuclear weapon with the equipment they have because we destroyed it. So that's a very, very big thing. Now, what that means, I think, is we have to talk to Iran and, of course, to Israel about what the future holds. Because while we have obliterated the Iranian nuclear program, our hope and our expectation is that they're not going to try to rebuild that program. And I think that's what the president is really trying to figure out here, is to build a long-term settlement here to where we can have peace in the region, where our regional allies and, of course, the American people, most importantly, can be secured, but where we can ensure that the destruction of the Iranian nuclear program that has already happened is not something they try to rebuild.
Live look at the White House this morning. And today, President Donald Trump set to attend the NATO summit where he's expected to pressure member countries to increase defense spending. Updates out of Washington and the Middle East. But the big takeaway this morning, is that ceasefire going to hold? Will it work? It does not appear. Things are peaceful right now, Jen.
All right, Mark, we'll be checking in with you throughout the morning. Thank you. Meantime, the exiled Crown Prince of Iran is praising what President Trump has managed to accomplish in just a few days. He's not been able to return to the country since the radical regime forced his family out during the Iranian Revolution in 1979.
The foundation of this 46-year tyranny are shaking. This is our Berlin Wall moment. But like all moments of great change, it comes fraught with danger. We stand at a crossroads. One road leads to bloodshed and chaos, the other to a peaceful and democratic transition. The difference in these two roads depends on one factor, and one factor alone: whether the current regime in Iran is allowed to survive.
Reza Pahlavi also called for Iran's supreme leader to step down. And developing this morning, U.S. intelligence has confirmed to lawmakers Iran failed to move nuclear materials before the U.S. airstrikes, despite unconfirmed reports that Iran used trucks to move material out of the Fordo plant before it was attacked.
They are claiming that they moved some material. Our intelligence report says they didn't. In fact, we actually believe they stored more of it in Fordo because they believed Fordo was impenetrable. They thought that it was a safe place to be. We've proven that we have technology better than any place in the world. We have the ability to destroy things that people think were undestroyable. And so we think we did a really good job. However, if we find out that we didn't, we will be working with our allies to finish the job, or we will finish the job. But we have made it very clear, President Trump has made it very clear for 10 years, we will not allow Iran, the world sponsor of terror, to have a nuclear weapon any way whatsoever.
The Washington Post also reports satellite images before the attack appear to show trucks meant to help reinforce the Fordo plant and not remove materials from it. Before the ceasefire, Iran did retaliate, launching strikes at Israel as well as a U.S. military base in Qatar. But President Trump says the missiles were intercepted and no Americans or Qataris were killed or injured. The National News Desk, Satra El-Nashar, has more from the White House.
President Trump calling Iran's foiled attempt to strike Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar a very weak response to the U.S. strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. The president also making clear he expects this to be the end of the violence, not only between the United States and Iran, but throughout the region. In a Truth Social post Monday afternoon, the president says, "I am pleased to report that no Americans were harmed and hardly any damage was done. Most importantly, they've gotten it all out of their system, and there will hopefully be no further hate. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. Perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region, and I will enthusiastically encourage Israel to do the same." Qatari officials confirmed to media outlets Iran gave them a general warning that American bases could be attacked. Immediately after the strikes, Iran made it a point to say the number of missiles they used was equal to the amount of bombs the U.S. dropped on its nuclear sites. This is widely being interpreted as a symbolic move, a sign that Iran may be ready to de-escalate hostilities with the United States.
What we are seeing is calculation on behalf of the Iranians to say, okay, we've responded to the United States attack from this past weekend. Now we need to look for the off-ramp where we can work our way to the negotiating table.
There are some 40,000 American troops stationed throughout the Middle East. Bases across the region have been preparing for an escalation in hostilities and potentially incoming fire. Meanwhile, there are still questions about how effective the U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear sites were. More time is required for definitive answers, but President Trump, despite more cautious remarks from others in his administration, insists Iran's nuclear program was obliterated. President Trump was with his national security team as the early information about these Iranian strikes was starting to come out. And Tuesday morning, he's set to depart for The Hague, where he'll join a NATO summit, and allies there are certain to encourage de-escalation. At the White House, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
The strikes on Iran had limited impact on oil prices as well, at least in the short term. Oil prices went down 7.2% on Monday, settling at $68.51 a barrel after Iran threatened but took no action to disrupt oil and gas tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. About 20% of the world's oil supply travels through the strait, which lies between Iran and Oman. While Iran's parliament voted to shut down the strait, Tehran has not taken steps to do so. The Trump administration warned Iran would be committing economic suicide if it did.
I can assure you the administration is actively and closely monitoring the situation in the Strait of Hormuz, and the Iranian regime would be foolish to make that decision.
Growing number of ships are reportedly avoiding the shipping route due to the tension. So far, though, there's been no impact on global oil supplies. The Department of Homeland Security is warning of a heightened threat level in the U.S. after the airstrikes. The National News Desk's Kayla Gaskins reports.
The U.S. remains on high alert following the weekend strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. NBC News reporting Iran warned President Trump before the strikes that they would activate sleeper terror cells in the United States if the U.S. dropped bombs on their nuclear sites.
Sleeper cells carrying out acts of terrorism here in the United States. The administration is being vigilant. Law enforcement across the country is being vigilant. But it is a real danger because we've had 4 years of open borders.
Border Patrol statistics reportedly show an increasing number of Iranians attempting to enter the U.S. illegally via the southern border.
The fact is, nobody, if they're speaking honestly from U.S. intelligence or law enforcement, can tell you, as a matter of fact, how badly we've been infiltrated here in the United States.
During the 4 years Biden was in office, at least 1,500 Iranians crossed over the southern border. About half were released into the U.S. with little to no vetting.
We know that some of those people were on terrorism watch lists, and this is one of the reasons why border security is national security, is if you let a bunch of crazy people into your country, those crazy people can eventually take action.
According to congressional Republicans, between 2021 and 2024, immigration officers caught 382 people on the terror watch list trying to enter the country illegally at the U.S.-Mexico border.
We're talking about ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the list goes on, and all of these special interest locations have been able, under the Biden administration, to make their way into the country.
Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Rodney Scott reportedly issuing a memo saying the threat of sleeper cells activating on Iran's behalf has never been higher. On Sunday, the Department of Homeland Security issuing a national terrorism advisory, warning Americans to be on alert, including from, quote, violent extremists, independently mobilizing to violence in response to this conflict. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
The FBI now shifting resources away from immigration enforcement to focus instead on any potential threats to the homeland from Iranian sympathizers and extremists. Meantime, Homeland Security reporting ICE arresting nearly 1,200 illegal aliens in the U.S. every day, and daily deportations have topped 1,100 as ICE works to move aliens out of the country as fast as it arrests them. Live look over Capitol Hill, where Senate Majority Leader John Thune says he will keep the Senate in session until the GOP is able to pass President Trump's big, beautiful bill and tax cut package. Thune wrote, by placing this historic bill on the president's desk by the 4th of July, Republicans will be ensuring that future generations of Americans can live in safety and prosperity. Head this morning, alarming alliance. The warning signs Iran could be getting reinforcements from another enemy of the U.S. And then political divide. President Trump's strikes on Iran reveal a growing divide right now among lawmakers on both sides.
And keep the air conditioning on, folks. Here at the Live Desk, we are monitoring the dangerously hot temperatures stretching across most of the Northeast. Updates coming up for you in 90 seconds. 14 minutes past the hour this morning, and we are tracking that expanding heat dome impacting more than 190 million Americans this morning. This will continue as all of that hot weather now shifts to the East Coast after breaking dozens of heat records out to the west. A closer look right now at those active heat alerts for you. We can pull those up for you. In the orange, that is the area where we're seeing this, and it stretches from way out in East Texas all the way to the East Coast and up to Maine. Even if you want to go to Maine to avoid some of the hot temperatures, it's all the way there, folks, this morning. And some new video. Take a look at this. This is on board an Amtrak train. It is dark. You see the fans going. The power went out. The Amtrak stalled for more than an hour waiting for the air conditioning to come back on right there. The train was bound for Boston. This happened in the Baltimore area. Passengers say the train was experiencing power issues before the departure as well. So some are wondering, why did the Amtrak even go out? And watch this. That car right there buckles, hits the road. The road buckled right in front of that Honda dealer. The car got some air right there. So this is what's happening. All the heat is affecting the roads as well. Heat wave causing that road to buckle, and just gives you one idea of what they're dealing with out there. The National Desk partners in Wisconsin speaking with drivers who are seeing this in other places as well.
We saw a camper right in front of us that just blew a tire while we were on our way up here. Other than that, it's been kind of a rough ride, but that's the worst that we saw.
That heat causes the pavement to push together, and at some of those joints, the pushing can pop it up like that. And that's just something drivers don't expect. So now more than ever, it's important not to drive distracted.
Jan was wondering if that was Dukes of Hazzard. I told her that was wild. Like literally
wild. It's
insane, and it's very dangerous as well. And Jan, also the heat alerts, they're going to stick around through tomorrow as well. We'll have continued updates for you right here at the National Weather Desk, part of the nationaldesk.com. Stay cool, folks. It's going to be around for a while.
All right, thank you so much, Mark. We're also monitoring concerns Iran could be trying to solidify its relationship with Russia as it looks for allies. The National News Desk's Matt Galka has more.
Iran's turning to Russia for help in the wake of U.S. strikes on the country's nuclear facilities. Iran's foreign minister was in Moscow Monday meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, with Putin calling the U.S. strikes unprovoked and unjustified. Former Russian president and Putin ally Dmitry Medvedev posted on X support for Iran, writing in part, "The future production of nuclear weapons will continue," and suggesting countries are ready to give Iran their own nuclear weapons.
I think it's a bizarre response, but I also don't know that that guy speaks for President Putin or for the Russian government. They've been very consistent that they don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon.
The president also reacting via Truth Social, saying the N-word for nuclear shouldn't be used so casually. And I guess that's why Putin's the boss. The reaction underscores the belief that the U.S. and Israel aren't the only two countries trying to prevent a nuclear Iran, since U.S. military installations in nearby friendly Middle Eastern countries are obvious targets.
This is an existential threat not only to Israel, but to the stabilization within the Middle East, but also America. So the president's been very, very consistent in the idea that he wants to have a diplomatic channel, but he also has been consistent that Iran cannot possess a nuclear weapon.
Russia's involvement is mostly being dismissed for now, with Moscow's Middle East influence not as strong as it once was.
What has Russia done? Issued a strongly worded statement and welcomed Iran's foreign minister to Moscow. So I think this is mostly just bluster to cover up the fact that Russia is a pretty fickle friend to have in the world.
It's unclear if Russia will or can support Iran with military intervention. Russia is involved in its own war with Ukraine that's straining its resources, and at Monday's meeting, Russian officials stressed a diplomatic way out of the conflict. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Galka.
House Speaker Mike Johnson is dismissing a proposed war powers resolution as some lawmakers try to limit President Trump's use of military force against Iran.
I don't think this is an appropriate time for a war powers resolution, and I don't think it's necessary. Listen, for 80 years, presidents of both parties have acted with the same commander-in-chief authority under Article 2. It's all politics. This is not a time for politics.
And as you heard Speaker Johnson just say there, he noted Democratic presidents did not wait for congressional approval to exercise their presidential powers. The National News Desk's Janae Bowens breaks down the controversy.
President Trump is not taking kindly to the criticism coming from within his own party. Now he's threatening to campaign against Congressman Thomas Massie. Not every Republican agrees with President Trump's strikes on Iran.
6 months in, Steve, and here we are, turning back on the campaign promises, and we bombed Iran on behalf of Israel. Yes, it was on behalf of Israel. We're entering a nuclear war, the World War III.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a loyal Trump ally, has been very vocal about her opposition. She posted on X, "I'm sick of funding foreign aid in foreign countries and foreign everything. I want to fund American interests." And Congressman Thomas Massie blasts the strikes as unconstitutional. He doubled down during a joint interview with Democrat Congressman Ro Khanna.
We haven't been briefed. They should have called us all back. And frankly, we should have debated this war powers resolution that Ro Khanna and I offered instead of staying on vacation and doing fundraisers.
President Trump barking back, claiming Massie is not MAGA. And, quote, "The good news is that we will have a wonderful American patriot running against him in the Republican primary." And while the constitutional debate is front and center, it's not new. A Council on Foreign Relations report shows that former President Obama dropped more than 26,000 bombs in 2016. All without seeking new congressional approval. President Trump is facing criticism from some Republicans, but also getting praise from across the aisle. Democrats like Senator John Fetterman called the strikes, quote, "the right move." And Congressman Josh Gottheimer said the world is safer. I'm Janae Bowens reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
There are reports this morning of concerns ChatGPT is helping children look into gender procedures without their parents even knowing. The Daily Wire reports it found ChatGPT will encourage children as young as 12 to contact progressive groups that push transgender messaging and even tell children where to find resources and products. ChatGPT's policy requires users must be at least 13 and also require parental permission for anyone 13 to 18 years old.
21 minutes past the hour this morning, we are following the firefight out in southern Utah once again as crews work to put out the flames of the Forsyth fire. Brand new numbers on the containment efforts next. This morning at the Live Desk, we are tracking urgent mandatory evacuation orders underway right now in southern Utah. This is a raging fire. It's called the Forsyth Fire, and it continues to burn out of control. We have some new video into the Live Desk. You can see right here from our partners in Salt Lake City, the ongoing operations so far. We know over 280 personnel are fighting this fire, 13 homes destroyed. Officials have also confirmed the cause of the fire was lightning. Now, take a look at these numbers. We just updated this for you. So far, the fire in Pine Valley, Utah, has burned more than 7,000 acres. And this is the alarming part. This was the same number yesterday. Still this morning, firefighters have no containment. They're out there around the clock trying to get this under control. We'll stay on top of the very latest for you as crews work to get those flames out here at the Live Desk, online anytime at the National Weather Desk, which is part of the nationaldesk.com.
New efforts to identify the health impacts of the train derailment disaster in East Palestine, Ohio. The National Institutes of Health announced a 5-year, $10 million research initiative aimed at identifying the long-term exposure effects from the crash in February 2023. The study will monitor the community's health conditions to provide health care support. Ahead in our next half hour of news, ceasefire violated. Iran denying reports it fired missiles into Israel hours after both sides agreed to a temporary truce. Also, hope for freedom. The Iranians exiled in the U.S. welcoming Trump's campaign against what they say is an oppressive, brutal regime. First, here's a look at America's news.
The National News Desk. Locally covered, nationally connected.
Breaking now on the National News Desk, America's News Now, defending America. Congress acts to boost the nation's missile defense system from intensifying threats around the globe. Threat assessment. State and local law enforcement on high alert after the Department of Homeland Security warns U.S. government officials could be at risk by the Iranian regime. And ceasefire violated. Israel vows to respond after it says its military intercepted ballistic missiles from Iran just hours after a ceasefire took effect. Thanks for joining us. You are watching the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Jan Jeffcoat. It's Tuesday, June 24th, and right now tensions continue to escalate in the Middle East following reports Trump's efforts to broker a peace deal between Israel and Iran has been upended. We want to get right to Mark Boyle at the live desk with these breaking developments. Mark, so far, Iran, though, is denying those reports.
Iran is denying those reports. I want to just check truth real fast here to see if the president has updated. Nothing from the president or the White House just yet, Jen. We are monitoring reaction, though, from the White House and Israel as Israel's defense minister accuses Iran, this is new here this morning, of violating the ceasefire agreement with deadly strikes just hours after the deal was announced. You went to sleep with some news, and this morning as you're waking up, things are changing. Iran has denied all of this. The defense minister, Katz, just releasing a statement this morning ordering the IDF to, quote, respond forcefully to the violation of the ceasefire with intense strikes against the regime targets in the heart of Tehran. And I want to show you an image this morning. This is posted by Israeli Defense Forces just within the past 60 minutes or so. It says a siren sounding in northern Israel due to missile fire from Iran. All of these indicators, basically all of Israel, under attack right now from these missiles, or at least concerned those missiles are incoming right now. Air raid sirens sounding off in the northern portions of Israel, warning Israelis to get to their bunkers right now. At the same time, U.S. military bases and embassies are on high alert as Iran eyes more potential retaliatory targets within range after launching attacks on the U.S. base in Qatar. Some new video this morning on social media you can see right here, garnering tens of thousands of views already and growing, claiming to be those Iranian missiles getting blasted by U.S. defenses. No Americans or Qataris were hurt here. President Trump called the strike, quote, very weak response. The latest reaction online from the president saying on Truth around 1 a.m., the ceasefire now in effect. Please do not violate it. That ceasefire went into effect around midnight Eastern time. It will remain in effect for 12 hours before the war will officially be over around 12 o'clock midnight tonight. Vice President J.D. Vance on Fox News talking about peace in the region.
The president, without, knock on wood, having a single American casualty, obliterated the Iranian nuclear program. We are now in a place where we weren't a week ago. A week ago, Iran was very close to having a nuclear weapon. Now, Iran is incapable of building a nuclear weapon with the equipment they have because we destroyed it. So that's a very, very big thing. Now, what that means, I think, is we have to talk to Iran and, of course, to Israel about what the future holds. Because while we have obliterated the Iranian nuclear program, our hope and our expectation is that they're not going to try to rebuild that program. And I think that's what the president is really trying to figure out here, is to build a long-term settlement here to where we can have peace in the region, where our regional allies and, of course, the American people, most importantly, can be secured, but where we can ensure that the destruction of the Iranian nuclear program that has already happened is not something they try to rebuild.
A live look for you over the White House this morning. Today, the president is set to attend a NATO summit where he's expected to apply more pressure to member countries to increase defense spending. Updates out of the Middle East and Washington as we get on this morning. As soon as we hear from the president or the White House, Jan, we'll break in right here at the live desk.
Mark, thank you. We're also hearing from Iranians living in America who support President Trump and the actions against their home country. One man we spoke to left Iran 30 years ago after gaining asylum in the U.S. as a religious refugee. He says he welcomes the recent military response by Israel and the U.S., hoping it will eventually lead to better lives for Iranian citizens.
We are seeking peace through the strength, okay? So do you want to leave that country like that, making a nuclear bomb and kill thousands and million people, or you rather to step in right now and block it from happening with a minimum damage?
Another woman we spoke to has been in the U.S. on a student visa since 2021. She didn't want to reveal her identity over fear of retaliation against her loved ones back home.
Being a woman, I've faced many restrictions.
And that's one of the main reasons I came to this country.
She says the Iranian government continues to hurt its own citizens, especially those in favor of the ongoing conflict. Many even face arrest.
I was talking to my friend yesterday, and they have these checkpoints in the street that they check your car, they check your trunk, and they might even check your phone. That if you shared like anything about the war, like being happy if Israel struck Iran, so anything could be a crime right now.
Despite a ceasefire, they say many still hope there will be a regime change so that Iranians are not left in the hands of the current oppressive regime. Both believe a change in leadership could also mean peace for the rest of the region and also the U.S. A new report warns Iran could try to target U.S. government officials if Iranian leaders believe their regime is at risk. The new Department of Homeland Security bulletin was sent to state and local law enforcement. The report points to previous murder-for-hire plots in which the Iranian regime attempted to recruit operatives to kill Trump and other public officials. And warnings this morning of Iranian-backed hackers launching cyber attacks against critical U.S. infrastructure. A former top cybersecurity official with the FBI warns those attacks are likely to ramp up as cyber sleeper cells.
The sleeper cell in the cyber world isn't a person, it's malware or its capabilities that are sitting someplace where it shouldn't be. They're going to be in server farms, across the world, just being stored in cloud service that they've possibly paid for. They're going to be sitting on, in individual networks that have been compromised, and those universities, hospitals, businesses. It's just something that's sitting there quietly and ready to launch at a moment's notice when needed.
And again, he warns Iran is likely to focus its attacks on critical infrastructure, including banks, hospital systems, water supplies, and transportation networks. Live look over the Capitol, where today Senators Kevin Cramer and Dan Sullivan are expected to introduce legislation that provides funding for a Golden Dome missile defense system in the U.S. This, of course, follows an executive order Trump signed just days after returning back to office. The proposal directs the Space Force's second in command to oversee that effort and have it operational by the end of Trump's term. The House's version of Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill already includes a $25 billion down payment for the missile system. This morning, a big victory for the Trump administration after the Supreme Court ruled Trump can resume third-party deportations. Monday's ruling lifts a federal court order requiring illegal alien criminals get a chance to contest deportations to countries where they did not originate.
It allows President Trump to send illegal aliens convicted of rape, murder, homicide, assault, battery, crimes against children to any country around the world that is willing to accept them. So whether that be South Sudan, or whether it be Somalia, or whether it be Ethiopia, any country in the world that is willing to accept these monsters, we can get them out of our country and be free of them forever.
The Trump administration has argued third-party deportations are necessary because the government is often unable to deport violent criminal migrants to their homelands as those countries refuse to take them back. Florida moving forward with plans to build a new immigration detention center in the Everglades. Attorney General James Utmeyer announced that the federal government approved a plan to build what officials are calling Alligator Alcatraz. The 1,000-plus bed facility will be at an abandoned airport surrounded by wetland, pythons, and alligators. Utmeyer calls it a one-stop shop to carry out Trump's deportation operation. Ahead this morning on the National News Desk, drilling demand. The president calls on his administration to do more to keep gas prices at a record low following escalating tensions in the Middle East. And then later, crime concerns from drug deals to shootings. Frustrated residents speak out as city leaders refuse to deal with a dangerous homeless encampment.
And a live look over New York City this morning, where today voters will weigh in on their choice for the next Democratic mayoral candidate. We're going to talk about the latest poll numbers and who is up for office. We're back in 90 seconds. Welcome back right now. Live look over New York City here behind me this morning, where voters in just a few hours will start to weigh in on who they want to be the next Democratic nominee for mayor. We have a list of some of the top contenders right now behind me. Former New York governor and frontrunner Andrew Cuomo on the far left side of your screen. Here are some of the other candidates on the right. He received the highest profile backing with former President Bill Clinton Sunday ahead of today's race. City Councilmember Adrienne Adams, Progressive Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, that is, you see right here behind me, getting a lot of attention, as well as the city comptroller Brad Lander. Those are the others on the ballot. There are some others as well. They've all made their cases, and now it's up to the voters on who they want. We are keeping a close eye on the latest for you this morning. We'll have results later today on the national news desk tonight and online throughout the afternoon and this evening, of course, at thenationaldesk.com.
Mark, thank you. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell scheduled to testify before Congress today, where he is likely to face tough questions over his decision to keep interest rates steady. It does follow the release of the Fed's semi-annual report Friday, which reiterated that the central bank is in no rush to cut rates despite inflation cooling under Trump's watch. Powell's testimony comes as more Federal Reserve officials are joining Trump in calling for lower borrowing costs. Fed Chair for Supervision Michelle Bowman urged the central bank to swiftly cut rates in order to sustain a healthy labor market. She is the second Fed official to call for Powell to cut interest rates since Friday. Live look over the White House after Trump called on the U.S. to boost drilling rates as crude remains a little volatile. He addressed the Energy Department in a post on Truth Social, ordering it to drill, baby drill, adding, quote, "I mean now." U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright responded, "We're on it."
For 4 years, the Biden administration dug a hole trying to stand in the way of energy development and forcing the closure of so many coal plants. So we can't reverse that overnight, but we've at least reversed the trajectory overnight. We're stopping the closure of viable coal plants today, and we're doing everything we can to enable the rapid build-out of new energy generation systems.
The White House also urged other oil-producing economies to pump more oil and keep prices down after Iran threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz. Still ahead this morning, the unseen risk, the women taking action against a pharmaceutical giant after developing dangerous tumors they say is linked to a widely used birth control shot. Millions of women trust the safety of their birth control, never imagining it could lead to health conditions like a brain tumor. The cases across the country are multiplying, and despite a growing body of research, women in the U.S. remain in the dark while users in other countries have been given clear warnings. Spotlight on America's Lisa Fletcher explains.
The night before Randy Hickman's brain surgery, she left letters for everyone in her family.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I wanted them to know how much I truly do love them.
It started with an emergency room visit to a Virginia hospital for dizzy spells and soaring blood pressure. Hours later, devastating news.
We're admitting you to the hospital. You have a brain tumor. And at this point, I'm like, oh my God, am I going to die today?
She endured life-altering brain surgery, leaving her with chronic pain, ocular seizures, and ringing in her ears.
I would have never thought that me taking something to prevent a pregnancy would cause me to have a brain tumor.
It wasn't until after her surgery that Randy pieced together what she believes caused it. Depo-Provera, an injectable birth control used by as many as 1/4 of American women. Emerging research, including a major French study, found a 555% increased risk of meningioma brain tumors with prolonged use. American and Canadian studies support this, with Canada's recent safety evaluation explicitly stating results warrant the need to alert women. Yet American women, unlike those in other countries, aren't getting that alert. We reviewed FDA adverse event reports for Depo-Provera in recent years. Meningioma reports skyrocketed from 2 in 2023 to more than 100 so far this year, all labeled serious.
You think we're just scratching the surface on the number of victims that there could be?
Oh yes. There were thousands of women affected by this.
Attorney Ellen Relkin has spent decades handling medical drug cases and is suing Pfizer, Depo-Provera's maker, on behalf of women like Randy. She points out that other countries mandate clear warnings. Canada's label cautions meningiomas have been reported. And the EU updated guidance last fall, advising patients should be monitored for signs of meningioma.
And that's what's critical. I can't tell you how many of our clients have had, headaches and dizziness and visual problems, and the doctors don't get it.
In America, Depo-Provera's warning label makes no mention of brain tumor and no advice for monitoring. Pfizer claims it proposed label changes to the FDA last year, which the agency rejected.
It's the new tool book. Give a half-hearted, half-baked request to the FDA, hoping that it's denied because of its inadequacy.
Are you just suggesting that the language intentionally wasn't robust enough to get the FDA to approve it?
Yeah, I do believe it was not robust enough.
Relkin says Pfizer could have made changes without FDA approval. And as for the FDA,
if you just spend an hour doing a little medical research, which you can do via Google even, you would find the long-standing association between progesterone and meningioma. They were not as diligent and thorough as they should have been.
What do women deserve?
We deserve to know what we are putting in our body.
Pfizer did not respond to our request for comment, and the FDA told us it's aware that other nations warn women against the consequences of Depo-Provera. But the FDA did not answer our specific questions, only to say that they review drugs and take action as needed. We have filed Freedom of Information Act requests for more information, and we'll keep you posted. For Spotlight on America, I'm Lisa Fletcher. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. From officers in the nation's capital battling fatigue to the governor of Texas vetoing a bill to ban THC products. We are taking the pulse of America. But we begin in Seattle with growing concerns over a crime-ridden homeless encampment.
It's hard to see when just passing by. But people who live and work near this homeless encampment along Martin Luther King Jr. Way South say the problems here couldn't be more apparent.
The encampment has just taken over the area.
Peter Easty owns a business here and has flagged issues from the camp with the city.
Drugs, and there's drug dealing and theft. I mean, there's constantly new trailers, new RVs.
It was in one of those RVs where police say there was a shootout last week. While investigators sort out that shooting, neighbors are hoping for a long-term solution.
Especially with the elevated shooting, it's gotten worse. It's so difficult to get them out. I mean, you got to do it the right way, and you want to treat them with some level of care, but when there's violence and there's shootings, it has to be escalated to the next level where you just need to clean slate it and then hope that it stays permanent.
Austin dispensaries will keep their doors open now that a bill aimed to ban THC products across the state has been vetoed. Just minutes before the midnight deadline to take action on outstanding bills, Governor Greg Abbott put pen to paper and vetoed Senate Bill 3, which many Austinites are happy to hear about today.
Why would you empower criminal organizations, to sell drugs in a black market instead of having it open and freely, regulated?
In Abbott's proclamation, he says, quote, Senate Bill 3 is well-intentioned, but it would never go into effect because of valid constitutional challenges. Instead of abolishing the Texas hemp industry, Abbott is calling for more regulations. Sterling agrees there needs to be more restrictions on these products.
Maybe the state stepping in and, checking with companies to be sure that what you're getting is exactly what's on the label.
Jurisdictions need to be aware and ready for that fatigue of their personnel.
Former MPD officer Josh Ederheimer pointing to recent major events that may lead to some on the force feeling fatigued. So far this year, MPD officers have been activated for the inauguration, Jimmy Carter funeral, World Pride, and the Army Parade. Not to mention they've responded to major incidents like the mid-air collision and the murders of 2 Israeli embassy staff members. Ederheimer says law enforcement agencies here and across the country understand what needs to be done in response to such a busy year.
What police departments need to do is they need to hire more people than they think that they need, because you need to rest your officers.
6:52 right now on the East Coast. That ceasefire did not hold overnight. Breaking developments out of the Middle East. Trump says both Israel and Iran violated that ceasefire. Brand new message from the president to Iran and Israel. Next. .653 right now, brand new coming into the live desk. We are hearing from the president this morning. The president says, Trump says, Israel and Iran both violated that ceasefire overnight. And you're watching some new video into the live desk from Israeli Defense Forces just within the past few minutes, posting on X that their Navy intercepted over 15 UAVs launched by Iran overnight. U.S. bases on alert. The president just put out on social media at 6:50, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. So this is all breaking right now. The ceasefire did not hold overnight. We'll see how this unfolds within the next few minutes to hours or so. Today, the president is set to attend a NATO summit. He's expected to pressure members of the countries there to increase more defense spending. But clearly, this is going to take center stage. Breaking right now, both on air and online at the National Desk. More coming up at the top of our next hour. Stay with us on that. Now, a look at America's news and weather.
The National News Desk. Locally covered, nationally connected. Homeland Security.
Sleeper cells carrying out acts of terrorism here in the United States. The administration is being vigilant.
A closer look at the growing threat of Iranian sympathizers already in the U.S. Presidential powers.
There's been so much talk ranging from AOC suggesting this is an impeachable offense, which is just absolute nonsense, to people suggesting that Congress should dither over this.
Lawmakers praising the president's actions after some Congress members tried to limit his powers. And summer scorcher.
We are going to get ready to pack up now because we've been here about 20-25 minutes, and that's enough for today because it's, going to be getting up higher in the 90s.
A brutal heat wave taking a toll on more than 100 million Americans across the country. The National News Desk is America's News Now.
Breaking this morning and just minutes ago, President Trump posted both Israel and Iran violated a ceasefire agreement he helped broker. And thanks for joining us. I'm Jan Jeffcoat. It's Tuesday, June 24th. Last night, Trump had written on Truth Social, the ceasefire deal will mark an official end to the 12-day war and will be saluted by the world. Mark Boyle joining us right now with these breaking details. Mark, Israel overnight came out and said Iran had violated the agreement. Iran then denied it, but then just minutes ago, Trump posted on Truth Social, they're both in violation. Give us the details.
And it seems right now, Jan, as if the president's even more frustrated with Israel right here. There's the message. You see the timestamp, 6:50 on the bottom right. We'll read it together. Israel, talking directly to Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it is a major violation. He goes on to say, bring your pilots home now. That broke within the past 10 minutes, and this comes as we monitor reaction from the White House and Israel finally getting that reaction moments ago as Israel's defense minister accuses Iran of violating the ceasefire agreement with deadly strikes just hours after the deal was announced. Iran, as Jan just said, has denied the claims. Defense Minister Katz releasing a statement this morning ordering the IDF to, quote, respond forcefully to the violation of the ceasefire with intense strikes against regime targets in the heart of Tehran. So that is the message. The president is saying, hey, Israel, don't do anything. Send your pilots back home now. At the same time, U.S. military bases, embassies, all on high alert. You see why, as Iran eyes more potential retaliatory targets, all within range after launching attacks on the U.S. base there in Qatar. New video into the live desk. This is from social media, already garnering tens of thousands of views. You see the attacks here playing out in this video, claiming to be those Iranian missiles getting blasted out of the sky by U.S. defenses. No Americans or Qataris were hurt here. The president called that strike very weak response. The latest reaction online from the president, this was actually a little older now, the timestamp here, 1:08. It says the ceasefire is now in effect. Don't violate it. Well, it looks as if that was certainly violated overnight. We heard late last night from the vice president speaking with Brett Baer on Fox News. Take a listen.
The president, without, knock on wood, having a single American casualty, obliterated the Iranian nuclear program. We are now in a place where we weren't a week ago. A week ago, Iran was very close to having a nuclear weapon. Now, Iran is incapable of building a nuclear weapon with the equipment they have because we destroyed it. So that's a very, very big thing. Now, what that means, I think, is we have to talk to Iran and, of course, to Israel about what the future holds. Because while we have obliterated the Iranian nuclear program, our hope and our expectation is that they're not going to try to rebuild that program. And I think that's what the president is really trying to figure out here, is to build a long-term settlement here to where we can have peace in the region, where our regional allies and, of course, the American people, most importantly, can be secured, but where we can ensure that the destruction of the Iranian nuclear program that has already happened is not something they try to rebuild.
Live look for you over the White House this morning. So a lot breaking this morning, and as the president is set to attend a NATO summit. This is also new right here. The president told reporters that they both have violated this ceasefire deal. Trump said, he added that he's not happy with Israel. But again, it's Iran and Israel both violating the ceasefire. Updates out of the Middle East and Washington as we get them this morning. This story is developing, Jen.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. The exiled Crown Prince of Iran, meantime, praising what President Trump has managed to accomplish in just a few days. He's not been able to return to the country since the radical regime forced his family out during the Iranian Revolution in 1979.
The foundation of this 46-year tyranny are shaking. This is our Berlin Wall moment. But like all moments of great change, it comes fraught with danger. We stand at a crossroads. One road leads to bloodshed and chaos, the other to a peaceful and democratic transition. The difference in these two roads depends on one factor, and one factor alone: whether the current regime in Iran is allowed to survive.